Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Living Inspired with Autism. I'm so glad that you're here today because we're diving into something that impacts every single aspect of our autism journey, and that is decision making. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Decision making? That sounds so basic. But here's the truth. As parents of autistic children, we make hundreds of decisions every single day that shape not only our lives, but our children's futures. And yet, no one ever taught us how to make these decisions with confidence. Now, let me share something personal with you. When Max was first diagnosed, I felt paralyzed by decisions. Should we try this therapy or that one? Is this school the right fit? Should we change his diet? Try medication? Every choice felt so heavy, like I was carrying the weight of his entire future on my shoulders with each decision. I'd stay up late researching options until my eyes burned, ask every specialist different questions, and still feel completely uncertain as to what to do. One particular moment stands out for me was Max was really struggling at school. Meltdowns were increasing, he wasn't sleeping properly, his anxiety was through the roof, and I knew something needed to change. But the thought of moving him to a new environment just terrified me. What if I made the wrong choice? What if the next school is worse? I spent about 3 months in this limbo of indecision, watching him struggle while I gathered more and more information without taking any action. When I finally made the decision to move him, the relief was immediate. Not just for Max, but for me. He flourished in his new environment, and I learned a powerful lesson. Indecision is actually a decision in itself, a decision to stay stuck, to maintain the status quo, even when it's not working. That's what I want to talk to you about today, how to move from decision paralysis to confident choice making that transforms your autism journey. Because we learn to make decisions effectively, everything changes. The Journey of Autism and Developmental Disorders published a fascinating study in 2023 that looked at a family's well-being in autism households. They found something that resonated deeply with my experience. Parents who reported higher confidence in their decision-making abilities showed significantly lower stress levels, better sleep quality, and improved relationships with their children. But here's the truly interesting part. This effect was independent of the child's autism, severity, or behavioral challenges. In other words, it wasn't about having an easier child. It was about the parents' relationship with their own choices. Now think about that for a moment. Your ability to make decisions confidently impacts your well-being more than many of the challenges your child experiences. Now that's powerful. When we're constantly caught in limbo of indecision, we experience what psychologists call decision fatigue. This isn't just feeling tired of making choices. It actually depletes our mental resources and reduces our ability to make good decisions in other areas of our life. It's like our brain has a limited decision-making budget each day. And when we spend too much of it worrying about the same choices over and over, we have less available anything else. Now, I see this with the parents that I coach all the time. Take Jessica, a mom I've been working with last year. Her son Ryan had been invited to join a social skills group, but Jessica spent weeks agonizing over whether it was the right program, the right timing, the right approach. And while she was stuck in this decision loop, she found herself stepping at other children, forgetting important appointments, and feeling exhausted all of the time. The indecision was leaking into every aspect of her life. Now, this brings me to something crucial: the hidden costs of delayed decision making. So, when we postpone decisions about interventions or supports or changes that our children need, we're often extending their struggle unnecessarily. I'm not talking about rushing into choices without research. That's not what I'm advocating for. I'm talking about that point where you have the information you need, but fear keeps you from moving forward. There's a groundbreaking longitudinal study from the University of Michigan followed families for 5 years after autism diagnosis. They found that the time between parents identifying a concern and implementing a solution had a significant impact on outcomes. The researchers called this implemental gap. And they found that reducing this gap by even 30% correlated with improved developmental trajectories for their children. Now, this makes intuitive sense, right? When our children are struggling with communication, sensory issues, or social challenges, every month spent in indecision is a month where those challenges continue without the right support. Early intervention has been proven time and again to make a difference, but early intervention requires timely decisions. I experienced this firsthand with Max's communication journey. He was nonverbal, and I spent nearly a year researching different communication approaches, different apps, from sign language to PECS to various speech therapy methodologies. And during that year, his frustration grew and grew. When I finally decided on a direction and implemented it consistently, he made more progress in 3 months than in the previous year of indecision. Now, this doesn't mean all decisions need to be made instantly. Some require careful consideration, but it doesn't mean that we need to be conscious of the cost of staying in decision limbo too long. So here's something powerful that's often overlooked. When we model confident decision making, we are teaching our children how to make their own decisions. This is especially true for autistic children who often struggle with executive functioning challenges that can make decision making difficult. I worked with a dad, let's call him Michael, whose daughter, Sophia, was incredibly anxious about making any choices. Something as simple as choosing what to wear would result in tears and meltdowns. And then Michael realized that his own approach to decisions might be contributing to this. He was the kind of parent who would research every option extensively, talk through all the pros and cons out loud, and visibly stress about even minor choices. And when Michael started practicing more confident decision making and talking about a process in a positive way, for example, I'm going to choose this option because it aligns with what matters to me, Sophia gradually began approaching her own choices differently. They created a simple decision making framework together that she now uses daily. Our parents are watching how we approach decisions, and they're internalizing those patterns. When we model constant value-based decision-making, we're giving them a gift that extends far beyond their childhood. A study in the Journal of Child Psychology looked at decision-making skills in autistic individuals and found that parents coaching in decision frameworks resulted in significant improvements in teens' ability to make choices independently. The researchers also noted that seeing parents approach decisions with confidence rather than anxiety created a foundation for the adolescent's own decision-making development. So how do we move from decision paralysis to confident choice making? Now, I want to share some practical approaches, as I always do, that have transformed my own journey and those of the families that I work with. First, create your decision-making framework. Now, this is something I wish I'd done from day one with Max. A decision framework isn't complicated. It's simply a consistent set of questions that you ask yourself when facing any significant choice. Now, here's the framework that I use now. When I'm facing a decision about Max's care, his education, or support, I ask myself, what do I know about Max's unique needs in this area? What options align with our family values? What does my intuition tell me about this choice? What's the worst that could happen if it doesn't work out? The very important question. How reversible is this decision? Now, having this framework doesn't make the decisions automatic, but it gives me a structured way to process my options instead of just spinning in circles. Secondly, set decision timeframes. One of the most effective strategies I've found is to give myself a specific deadline for making each significant decision. When Max needed a new occupational therapist, I gave myself 2 weeks to gather information, check the references, and make a choice. This prevented the endless research loop that I used to get caught in. For major decisions, I use what I call the 2-2-2 rule. How will I feel about this decision in 2 days, 2 months, and 2 years? This helps me to right-size the decision and not to catastrophize about choices that won't matter in the long run. Thirdly, recognize decision fatigue and protect your mental energy. We make much better decisions when our brains aren't exhausted. Create systems for routine decisions to reduce the daily cognitive load. Like in our house, we have standard meal rotations, morning routines, therapy schedules, and by automating these recurring decisions, I save my mental energy for the choices that truly require deep thought. Now, one mom I worked with, let's call her Samantha, created what she calls her decision-free day each week. On Thursdays, she follows pre-established routines and doesn't take on any new decisions unless it's absolutely necessary. She says this weekly reset has dramatically improved her decision-making clarity on other days. Number 4, trust your expertise about your child. A 2024 study in the Journal of Developmental Disabilities found that parental intuition about intervention fits was a stronger predictor than successful outcomes than adherence to any particular methodology. The researchers concluded that parents' intimate knowledge of their child's unique presentation should be considered expert information in the decision-making process. You know your child better than anyone. You've observed them across contexts through different developmental stages and in response to various approaches. Now, that knowledge is invaluable and should be weighted heavily in your decisions. And number 5, create a decision journal. This simple tool has been transformative for many parents I work with. When you make a significant decision, write down what you decided, why you made that choice, what you hope will happen, and what concerns you have. Then revisit this entry after some time has passed to see what you've learned. This creates a feedback loop that improves your decision-making over time. It also helps you to recognize patterns in what works for your child and what doesn't. Now, when I look back at my decision journal for the past 5 years with Max, I can see how my confidence has grown. And more importantly, I can see the wisdom I've gained about my approaches that work for him and which helps me make better decisions and foster from now on. Okay, beautiful souls, I want to leave you with this. You don't have to make perfect decisions to be an amazing parent to your child. Perfect decisions don't exist. What matters is that you made thoughtful choices from a place of love, learn from the results, and keep moving forward. Remember that indecision is actually a decision. It's choosing to stay where you are. Sometimes that's the right choice, but often our children need us to be brave enough to make a move, even when we are uncertain. The journey with autism isn't about finding one perfect path. It's about making the next best decision with the information that we've got right now, and then making another one after that. Each decision you make with confidence is teaching your child that uncertainty doesn't have to lead to paralysis. You've got this, beautiful souls. Trust yourself. You know more than you think you do. Until next time, keep shining bright on your unique journey. You're not just surviving this autism journey, you're transforming it through every decision you make.